Judge Owen, this is my group, correct?
Yes, sir. All yours. You're a leader.
Good afternoon. My name is JC Polanco. I'm very excited to be here with all of you today and can't wait to hear your preparation for today's Unit 6. I'm an attorney here in New York City. I've been here for many years. I love participating and I can't wait to hear your presentation. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Ellen Iwamoto. I'm the Director of Civics Programs at the Annenberg Public Policy Center at the University of Pennsylvania, coming to you from Philadelphia. Looking forward to hearing your presentations and congratulations on being at the National Invitational.
Yes, welcome everybody and good afternoon. My name is Jeff Owen. I'm a retired Chief Operating Officer at the American Bankers Association and have lived and worked in and around the Washington, D.C. area for over 40 years. So welcome. Looking forward to your presentation.
I'd love for you to introduce yourselves and your teachers.
Hello, I'm Delaney Gamble, the captain of Fisher Junior High's Unit 6 from Fishers, Indiana.
I'm Bronwyn Sundquist.
I'm Jack Stump.
I'm Perla Perez, and our instructors are Mike Bosselt and Tony Sturgeon.
Great, so excited to make your acquaintance. Let's begin with the question. According to the American Immigration Council, quote, immigration law in the United States has been built upon the following principles: the reunification of families, admitting immigrants with skills that are valuable to the U.S. economy, protecting refugees, and promoting diversity, end quote. Does today's immigration policy reflect these principles? Why or why not? We're looking to hear about what are the major cultural and political issues regarding immigration that face America today. What changes, if any, should be made to our current immigration policy? Should the United States admit more refugees in view of the worldwide crisis of displaced persons? Why or why not? You may begin.
Our unit does not believe that our immigration policy reflects the ideals of the American Immigration Council. The separation of families at the border, the obvious targeting of people of color with deportation, and border control are issues that not only directly contradict the mentioned ideals, but are ones that must be fixed. There are many issues surrounding immigration policy that are highly debated. The founding principles of this nation imply that an individual of any ethnic heritage or racial background can become an American. But over the past few years, we've seen a decrease in the amount of diverse refugees accepted into the country, even despite the issues in countries all over the world that should lead to an influx of refugees. Along with that, the US-Mexico border has been the root of many immigrant children being separated from their families. Many undocumented families are being put into ICE facilities, where living conditions are inhumane.
Between October 1st, 2017 and May 31st, 2018, at least 2,700 children were split from their parents, an average of 45 children taken from their parents each day. The way that these people are being treated while detained is just as disgusting. Children are left without adequate care, people are left to get sick, and some commit suicide. If the children are released, oftentimes they are unable to find their families as a result of them being imprisoned, deported, or possibly dead. There are not nearly enough measures being taken against this practice by both the Biden administration and the Trump administration when it was in office. Immigration is a way for people to get to safer places and have better futures in their lives. Immigration should unite and bring people together, not pull families apart. In a December 2020 investigation by NBC News, there were reportedly 3,200 unaccompanied migrant children on the southern border. Of those 3,200, almost half of them were held over the legal limit.
The few policies meant to protect them aren't even being followed. ICE facilities need huge policy changes that ban the neglect and abuse of children and that stop the obvious targeting of easily identifiable minorities. Our unit also believes that deportation policies are a big issue. If non-citizens have a child who is a US citizen and they get deported, their kids will be left to the foster care system, a system that is also incredibly flawed. Along with that, criteria for deportation ranges from being undocumented to committing drug crimes. Deportation should not be an acceptable punishment for a low-level crime, such as petty theft or drunk driving. People who are waiting for refugee status are often left in dangerous situations or sent to Mexico, as stated in the migrant protection protocols. We need to lessen the complexity of screening and take responsibility for the people who come to our borders for help instead of shipping them off to Mexico.
President Biden claimed he would raise the refugee cap to 125,000, but has yet to make any concrete changes. The United States admittance of refugees has been a highly debated issue for decades. Throughout his term, former President Trump set record lows on the caps for refugees, where former President Obama had had set the 2017 fiscal year cap at 110,000, and the average annual cap falls above 95,000. Former President Trump set his final cap at 15,000 refugees that can be accepted in the 2021 fiscal year. This has been the lowest this limit has been implemented since the creation of the 1980 Refugee Act. Some say that an increased tolerance for refugees would burden the economy and pose a threat to our citizens. These fears are rooted in xenophobia, and bringing the cap back up would not do any long-lasting damage. Our unit agrees that we should not let these low caps continue and instead admit more refugees in response to the worldwide crisis. We have finished our testimony and ready for follow-up.
Thank you so much. I have a question regarding your positions on those that are brought here as children and are undocumented. Parents bring them here against the law, and now we have an issue where we have to figure out what to do with these young people. What do you suggest we do about DACA specifically? Is this something that we should get rid of? Should we fix it? And what's the future of it? What's your position on it?
I think we should keep DACA. DACA is really good for the economy, has contributed $460.3 billion, and that has been contributed to the US.
Additionally, the majority of kids here that came under the protection of DACA were under the age of 5, and I believe it's simply inhumane to send these children back to a country which they don't know the language, they don't know the culture, and is likely in a large crisis that could endanger their lives.
I agree with Delaney and Perla, and I believe that DACA should be signed into an official document by Congress instead of just an executive order from Obama, and that it should be made official legislature.
People from other countries are also proven to be more motivated to work.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question sort of on a different tact. We are speaking about DACA, which is a federal program and federal policies, but what do you think state governments, should they be able to regulate immigration?
Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution grants the Congress form naturalization, and that is granted to the federal government, not the state government.
I also don't think state government should have power because people that are coming here from other countries are coming to the country. They're not specifically going to a state. I think it should be something that should be handled on the national level.
Building on Perla's point, Congress was granted the power to establish uniform rule of naturalization and immigration, and that wasn't a mistake. It was because under the Articles of Confederation, there are huge problems with the states having power over immigration, and at the Continental Congress, the founders sought to solve those problems. So we've seen that giving states the power of immigration does not work.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know, you have a strong message here, but I want to come back to an issue that's been around for a long time, at least the last half a dozen years. And that's the notion of building a wall along the border with Mexico, designed to stop the flow of illegal immigration. Is this a good idea, a bad idea? What are the issues there that are important to you?
I believe that the wall has been a economic burden, a financial burden, because that has not stopped 172,000 immigrants from crossing.
I think it is a good idea in theory, but I don't like how it's been executed. It was supposed to stop illegal immigration, which it might, but I don't like how it's been executed financially, and it's not good for the Mexico's economy, which we are forcing them to pay for.
Additionally, by proposing to build a wall against the US-Mexico border and not the US-Canada border, declares Mexico as an enemy and as a threat. And this can strain our relationship with Mexico, who is one of our strongest allies.
Along with that, a much better idea than trying to build a wall to keep them out would be to provide help to places like South America and places where they're experiencing crop failure and mob violence, because without preventing that, they will still try to get in because their lives are in danger.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
I have a question regarding immigration from countries where we may not trust their government, right? Here you have immigrants coming in, but the countries that they're coming from, we either don't trust their systems of checking who those individuals are, and we may even be enemies. Are you okay with just allowing people from those countries to come here, or would you rather curtail that type of immigration into the United States?
Countries that we have bad relationships with tend to be some of the countries that are in the largest crises. So their citizens are in the most danger. And I believe that means we should focus on finding or doing reasonable background checks, figuring out if they personally would pose a threat, and then letting more in from those countries because they are in arguably the most danger in the world, and we need to let them in to grant them asylum.
This has been done in the past with the Chinese Exclusion Act. While it's making a generalization for all people for what a few people have done.
Building off what Jack said, the more recent example would be the Muslim ban. We saw a group of people from countries that we saw as threats and generalized them to all be threats, which meant that many Muslim people who were previously coming to the country in large numbers just were no longer allowed to come for no good reason.
The war in Syria that has been going on for more than 10 years has caused a lot of danger, and Europe took in more than 1 million refugees. And I think that's just an example of how the trust they have in bringing a lot of refugees in.
Building on what Bronwyn said, things like the Muslim bans are an official statement from our government that people of the Muslim or of the Islamic faith are inherently a threat to our nation. And this can promote discrimination within our country, even for people who have been born in America, who have lived in America for generations, and pose no real threat.
Thank you so much.
Great. I'll follow up. Excuse me. Do you think we should encourage new immigrants to become U.S. citizens, and why or why not?
I believe we should encourage immigrants to become US citizens because it's been proven in studies that people who've immigrated to the US typically have more motivation to get a higher education and join the workforce. And so having more citizens that lead with that example would be beneficial.
Along with that, it provides them with a couple rights that they wouldn't have normally without citizenship and just a green card, like the right to vote. My mom actually only has a green card. She's not a citizen of the US, and that means that she's not allowed to vote. So if we encourage the, people getting citizenship and make it easier and less discriminatory, I think it would be better for the nation as a whole.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
So you make a strong case for us being inclusive and accepting, and all the right reasons, or the reasons that you put out, are compelling. So let's talk about taking the next step. Whose job is it, or whose plural jobs is it, to help recent immigrants take the next step with employment, housing, healthcare, and all those kinds of things, so that they can become functioning parts of our society?
Well, Article 1, Section 8 grants Congress the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, as we said before. So it's their job to give the criteria for becoming citizens and helping people get through to that.
Along with that, we can take an example from Canada, which provides housing and programs for recently integrated immigrants to help them integrate into society and help refugees.
Right.
Great job.
Nice job.
Really, really great job. Thank you for your presentation. You were able to bring in current affairs and tie it to some constitutional principles, and I really enjoyed your presentation a great deal. Thank you.
I agree with JC. Your presentation was just very solid, very strong. I thought your responses to the questions, which is hard to do, to just think off on your feet, off the top of your head, you had some concrete examples to support your answers. whether they were, historic or whether it was constitutional or current events. It's always good to have something to support. And I thought that especially on the DACA question and as well as building the wall. So congratulations, I think, to you and your teachers. I think you did a really great job.
I agree with my two colleague judges here. I would only add that when we talked about the wall, I was very impressed with the breadth and depth of that answer. There's a tendency sometimes to oversimplify the wall issue. And what you all have demonstrated here is the ability to get behind that and to talk a little bit about the complexity. And one of you mentioned that there's some foundational issues. Maybe if we're as powerful and important as we are, maybe we could go to work and help in South America and stem the reasons for why they're all leaving, enrich without imposing upon them, enrich their experience back home and take some of the pressure off of them. And I thought you were able to take kind of the next step on that argument and several more. And I thought that was quite impressive. And I congratulate you for doing that. And you're obviously well prepared, and hats off to you and your teachers, and best of luck on the rest of the journey here.
Thank you so